Um, there's something moving beneath the surface of your life right now, something you may not have noticed yet. It's quiet. It doesn't announce itself. It doesn't arrive with fanfare or certainty. But if you've been paying attention to the subtle shifts, the small moments that feel different, the way the air around you seems to hum with a kind of anticipation, you might sense it. It may feel as though something you stopped waiting for is beginning to take shape in the unseen. Not in the way you imagined it, not through the door you were watching, but through a passage you didn't even know was there. And that's the nature of what's unfolding. It's unexpected, not because it's random, but because it's been building in a place you weren't looking, in the corners of your life where you stopped holding your breath, where you stopped checking for signs, where you let go just enough to stop controlling the outcome. Um, and in that letting go, something shifted. You might notice it first as a feeling, a lightness you can't quite explain, a sense that the heaviness you've been carrying, the weight of wanting something so deeply and not seeing it arrive, is beginning to lift. Not because you've given up, but because you've stopped gripping so tightly. And in that space, in that openness, there's room for something to enter that couldn't before. It's almost like when you stop watching the door, another one opens behind you. This reflection invites you to consider, is less than #0. 5# is greater than, what would it feel like to receive something you've wanted without having orchestrated every step toward it? There's a particular kind of dream that lives in you, not the ones you talk about, not the ones you write down or plan for or share with others, but the ones you hold in the deepest, quietest part of yourself, the ones you've almost stopped believing in because wanting them felt too vulnerable, too exposing. The ones you whispered to yourself in the dark and then tried to forget about in the daylight. And it's possible, entirely possible, that one of those quiet dreams is beginning to take form in your reality, not loudly, not obviously, but in small, unmistakable ways that you might start to recognize if you allow yourself to see them. Some of you might notice synchronicities, moments where things align in ways that feel almost too perfect to be coincidence, a conversation that opens a door you didn't know existed, a person who appears with exactly what you needed, an opportunity that seems to arrive from nowhere. But when you look closer, you realize it's been building for longer than you thought. It can seem as if the universe or life or whatever unseen force moves beneath the surface of things has been arranging pieces on a board you couldn't see. And now, suddenly, you're beginning to glimpse the pattern. But here's what makes this different from every other time you hoped for something. You're not the same person who first planted this dream. You've been shaped by the waiting, by the disappointments, by the moments when you thought it would never happen and had to find a way to keep going anyway. And that transformation, that quiet internal shift, has prepared you to receive what's coming in a way you couldn't have before. You might feel ready in a way you didn't expect, not desperate, not frantic, but steady, grounded, open, without being attached. And that energy, that particular vibration of readiness without demand, creates space for something to arrive organically. This reflection invites you to consider, how have you changed in the time you've been waiting, and what does that version of you now have the capacity to hold? There is a sense of timing here that feels significant, not because certain dates or moments are destined, but because there's a rhythm to things. a natural unfolding, and it may feel as though you've been out of sync with that rhythm for a while. Like you've been pushing against a current, trying to force something to happen before it's time, exhausting yourself in the effort. But something about this moment feels different. It may feel as though the current has shifted, as though you're no longer swimming upstream, but being gently carried. And you might not even realize it's happening until you look around and notice how far you've come, how much has changed without you forcing it. Um, um, what's coming might not look exactly like what you pictured, and that's important to understand because when we hold a dream for a long time, we tend to create a very specific image of how it should appear, what it should look like, who should be involved, how it should unfold, and sometimes the dream that arrives is better than the one we imagined, but we almost miss it because it's wearing a different face. So there's an invitation here to stay open, to notice what's showing up rather than what you expected to show up, to recognize that fulfillment can come in forms you didn't anticipate, and that doesn't make it less real or less yours. This reflection invites you to consider if something arrived in your life that felt right but looked different than you expected, would you be able to recognize it? There's also something about worthiness that feels present in this moment. For some of you, there may be a quiet voice that questions whether you're allowed to have this, whether you've earned it, whether it's safe to want something and actually receive it. And that voice, that hesitation, it can create resistance even when the door is opening. But what if you didn't have to earn it? What if the dream coming true wasn't a reward for suffering or a prize for getting everything right? What if it was simply allowed? What if you were allowed to receive something beautiful without having to justify why you deserve it? It may feel as though there's a softening happening inside you, a release of the grip you've been holding. The part of you that was white knuckling your way through life, trying to control every outcome, manage every variable, protect yourself from disappointment, that part might be starting to relax. And in that relaxation, there's room for grace, for ease, for things to come to you rather than you always having to chase them down. And that shift in energy, that subtle change in how you're moving through the world, it changes what you're available to receive. Some of you might also notice a feeling of disbelief, like even as things start to align, even as you see evidence that something is shifting, there's a part of you that doesn't quite trust it, that waits for the other shoe to drop, that tells you it's too good to be true. And that's understandable. When you've been disappointed before, when you've hoped and been let down, it makes sense to protect yourself. But protection can also keep you from fully experiencing what's trying to arrive. So there's a balance here between staying grounded and allowing yourself to feel the joy of what's unfolding, between being wise and being open, between honoring your past and not letting it dictate your future. This reflection invites you to consider what would need to shift inside you to allow yourself to fully receive what's trying to come through. What's important to understand is that you don't need to see the whole picture right now. You don't need to know exactly how it's going to unfold or what every step looks like. The unexpected nature of this, the fact that it's arriving from a direction you weren't watching, means you can't plan it or predict it or control it. And maybe that's exactly the point. Maybe the lesson here is in the surrender, in trusting that something can be good and right and meant for you without you having orchestrated every detail, in allowing life to surprise you in the best possible way. So as you move forward from this moment, pay attention. not with the kind of attention that's anxious or grasping, but with the kind that's curious, open, receptive. Notice the small shifts, the unexpected conversations, the doors that crack open when you weren't even knocking, the way things seem to flow more easily than they have in a long time. And if you feel that flutter of hope, that whisper of possibility, don't push it away. Don't tell yourself it's foolish to believe. Let yourself feel it. Let yourself imagine just for a moment that maybe, just maybe, the dream you thought was lost is actually closer than you think. Because sometimes the most beautiful things in life arrive exactly when we stop demanding them, when we've grown enough to hold them, when we're ready in ways we didn't even know we needed to be ready. And that readiness creates the opening for something unexpected and true to finally come home. Stay open, stay present, and trust what's unfolding, even if you can't see it all yet.